Disclaimer. This video is based on my personal subjective interpretation of moments within Star Wars Episode VII, The Force Awakens, and both Episode VIII trailers. I do not presume to be correct in that interpretation. This video is purely my speculation. I hope that you enjoy. Every film of the Skywalker saga has had its own grand lightsaber duel, from the Duel of the Fates in the bowels of Theed's power system, to the final struggle between generations at the base of the Emperor's throne on the second Death Star. These confrontations are a wellspring of character growth, peeling back layers of personality, exposing the raw truth of a character's soul in a way that only desperate mortal combat can. Today, I plan to give you my analysis of the duel between Rey and Kylo Ren near the end of The Force Awakens, with the goal of uncovering the subtle nuances which I believe point the way towards their character profiles in Episode VIII, and thus allowing us to possibly extrapolate how they could join forces as the promotional material for Episode VIII suggests. And with that, let's get right into it. I've chosen 4 of my most meaningful parts of this fight, and we will go through them in chronological order. The first of these is somewhat obvious, being the very beginning of the duel. It's still such a good moment. But let's go back to the beginning and find out why it's such a good moment. Okay, let's hold right there. We see Kylo going for the Force pull, but he's struggling. Why? We've seen this guy stop a blaster bolt in midair and hold it there while he held a conversation. This should be an easy task for him, and while we can blame his failure in part on the emotional wound of just committing patricide, and the gaping hole in his gut from the bowcaster blast, it's still just a lightsaber. It can't weigh that much. And we even see some of his own confusion as he stops and tries again. I have 2 possible factors that could be causing Kylo's failure here. Number 1 is a bit obvious. Kylo is so fixated on the saber that he doesn't realize that Rey is going for it at the exact same time, thus adding some resistance to the Force pull. The other factor is buried deep in an episode from the 5th season of the Clone Wars, The Gathering, in which Ahsoka helps a class of youngling Jedi find kyber crystals, the completely clear natural forming crystals that power the lightsabers. This episode, as well as many other canon sources like the Ahsoka novel and Catalyst, have introduced the idea that kyber crystals are, in fact, maybe kind of sort of, alive. Kybers can choose their owners, only taking color and revealing themselves to the younglings once the younglings have found a sense of inner peace. With that said, I think that the Skywalker saber actually makes a choice in this moment. The Sword of Destiny, the Excalibur of the Star Wars universe, chooses Rey. Now, speaking of Rey, let's talk about her part in this moment. Many fans, myself included, have said in the past that the second that saber lands in Rey's hand is when she officially takes up the mantle of Grand Galactic Hero. But there is a difference between being set on the path to heroics and choosing to become a hero. I would say the moment she grasps the hilt is the moment that she is set on that path. We hear the burning homestead theme in the musical score, the same theme that played when Luke found his home destroyed and his aunt and uncle killed back in Episode 4. But I don't think she's made the choice yet. We see that in about 16 seconds. And in those 16 seconds, we see her looking almost surprised, shocked that this saber has found its way to her hand. She's taken off balance when the hilt hits her hand. She even does a triple take. She makes sure that this is real. This leads me to believe that she wasn't actually trying to pull the saber to her, at least not consciously. Her Actually pulling the saber to her was an act of instinct, a sort of primal call that commanded her to reach out. Okay, great. So when does she actually make the choice to become a hero? I'll show you. That is when she knows what she must do. She is committed to eliminating this monster from the galaxy. Next, we have the moments before Rey turns the fight in her favor. Up until this point, Kylo has been toying with her, fulfilling the same sort of role of an unyielding, unstoppable doom approaching her through the woods, very similar to how he did on Takodana. He has her off balance, and he even has her on the edge of a cliff, but instead of ending her, he tries to turn her. Why? It's telling that he even allows her time to breathe, time to center herself. Well, judging from Kylo's reaction to killing Han, I think that he's reaching for anything that might provide an attachment or some comfort. He's craving control, and Rey is a prime target in his mind at this moment. We also know from earlier in the film, Kylo has a knack for breaking into other people's minds. And so instead of simply taking advantage of her position and striking her down, I feel that he is trying to pressure her mind, possibly even making another attempt at mind domination. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't realize his mistake until she opens her eyes, showing her resolve and inner strength. Here we are at the beginning of the third moment. Let's have a look. This is a purely Rey-centric moment for me. Kylo's getting his butt kicked, but what's important is how he's getting his butt kicked. Rey is becoming a servant to her emotions here, and by extension, the dark side of the Force. She is dwelling in her hatred of Kylo, so much so that she's even taken on the body language of a predatory animal. Her arms are out at her sides, her teeth are bared, and she's even circling Kylo, almost like a big cat, like a tiger or a panther might. And that leads me into the final moment. The most fortuitous of cracks. But what if it isn't just there to ensure another couple films are made? This might sound a bit out there, but I can practically hear the Father, the Bendu, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, or any other presence within the Force saying, not here? Not now? Not this? I'm not sure which one, but I am of the firm belief that this is the Force taking matters into its own hands. The Force needs something from these characters. Whether that's keeping Kylo alive, needing Rey to stay within the light, or bringing them together for a greater purpose later on down the road, I don't know. I do know that if that crack hadn't opened up, Rey would have murdered Kylo then and there. And I cannot imagine Luke taking in someone who slipped into the dark side during a confrontation very similar to his with Vader all those years ago. The Force needs this outcome, for one reason or another. So what does all this mean for Rey and Kylo in The Last Jedi? For my interpretation of the lightsaber battle, I believe that Rey is in the mindset of a lost child. Rey is desperate for a purpose, most likely compounded by her rightful fears of abandonment and loneliness. She doesn't understand where this newfound power is coming from, but she does know that she wants to use it to destroy Kylo. Thus, she seeks out Luke for guidance. Little does she know that Luke has absolutely no interest in fulfilling Rey's wishes here. My prediction for Rey's storyline throughout The Last Jedi is as follows. Rey convinces Luke to show her some of what he's learned, both ancient knowledge and basic Force combat powers. However, Luke realizes the extent of her powers and refuses to take her training any further, instead opting to concentrate on lecturing her on why the Jedi must cease to be, and why a purely passive approach will lead to a balancing of the Force. Unfortunately, either a message or a vision comes through to Rey and she's compelled to go rush off and save the day, similar to Luke's situation in Empire Strikes Back. Luke makes an attempt to keep her on Ahch-To, and we've even seen snippets of this confrontation in the various trailers, TV spots, and behind-the-scenes reels. However, Luke sees there's no convincing her otherwise, and, perhaps out of worry for Leia, begrudgingly joins her damned fooled crusade. This all leads to a confrontation between Rey, Snoke, and possibly Luke. If Luke is there, I imagine that Luke is either incapacitated or killed after sacrificing himself to save Rey. But regardless of Luke's location, Rey is no match for Snoke alone. Now let's jump over to Kylo for a second here. Kylo is in a very similar overall mindset as Rey at the beginning of the film. The difference is that Kylo knows where this power comes from. He doesn't know where to put it. He doesn't know what to use it for. He thought he wanted the release of fully giving himself over to the dark side, but it turns out that didn't quite go as he planned. Thus, Kylo is still looking for a purpose, a place in all of this, just like Rey is. We know from the trailers and a few interviews with the cast and crew, Kylo and Rey are meant to be, quote, co-protagonists, unquote, within the story of Episode 8. So we are most likely going to see a turn in Kylo's character. Fortunately for us, Kylo is in prime condition here to have a change of heart. His confidence in himself is shaken from his defeat at the hands of this strange scavenger girl, and his confidence in the dark side, and by extension his confidence in Snoke, is shaken by the guilt and regret that he feels from the murder of his father. I'm guessing that he can't stop thinking about both Solo and Rey. I think that he is obsessed with Rey in a very different way than she is with him. Rey is like a beacon of hope for him, similar to how Luke is a beacon of hope for Rey. I imagine we're going to see some Jon Snow level brooding throughout a good portion of this film. A state which will be shattered when Snoke orders Kylo to attack Leia's ship. I believe that Kylo will have the shot, but he won't take it, hesitating just long enough for Snoke to open fire from the Supremacy, killing Leia. This will send Kylo into a rage. He's going to lose his mind with grief and make a charge for the Supremacy. As he's fighting through the massive ship, hell-bent on destroying the being that caused everything to go wrong, he senses another, someone he's fought before, someone who is in immense pain. As Kylo bursts into Snoke's chambers, his motivations shift from revenge to protection. I think that he saves Rey, either by forcing Snoke to retreat or giving Rey enough time to do it herself. Near the end of the fight, now with Kylo and Rey on one side against Snoke, Snoke reveals that he is not the only threat to the rest of the galaxy. Now, whether or not Snoke is killed or simply forced to retreat, I don't think that matters much. The point is that Kylo, or is it Ben now, and Rey are victorious. But there's no time for celebrations, and the story isn't finished. Luke is either dead, seriously injured, and needing medical attention, or way too far away to join them. And Kylo can't join with the Resistance after all of that he's done. Here is where we see the final shot of the October 9th trailer. Kylo reaching out to Rey in a pleading sort of way. The final shot of the film could very well be Kylo and Rey in a captured First Order ship jumping into hyperspace towards the unknown regions. I want to take the time now to reiterate that this video is made up of pure speculation. I look forward to deleting this video on September 15th. Or maybe I'll leave it up so I can laugh at myself. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed the very first episode of Star Wars-OLOGY. As a quick rule, not all of these episodes of Star Wars-OLOGY are going to follow this kind of format. This video just kind of turned into a theory video after the trailer dropped back on October 9th. But let me know what you guys thought about this video down in the comments down below. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. Also, hit a like on this video too if you enjoyed it. It lets me know that I'm doing something right. And hit me up over on Twitter and Twitch as is linked down in the description. Thank you guys as always for your time, and may the Force be with you. Take care.